NASA has already started preparations to go to the moon, and at the same time, activities on Mars have also increased. We all know that one day we will set foot on the surface of Mars. But if, after landing there, some kind of emergency situation arises, it's not like a new mission can be sent there immediately. Either they will have to deal with that problem themselves, or they will have to wait for 1 to 2 years. So why shouldn't we know everything about Mars beforehand, especially since so many rovers sent by us are currently roaming on Mars? They are constantly engaged in exploring Mars's atmosphere, weather, land, radiation, and also its history. The search for life there is ongoing. You might be disappointed to hear that none of the rovers we've sent to Mars so far have actually been capable enough to search for life on Mars. Because there is something on Mars that, while being there, is hiding the evidence of life and erasing its history. And in today's video, we'll talk about a mission that will deal with that problem present on Mars. And we might well find some evidence of life on Mars. March 17, 2022 is a very bad day for planetary physicist George Vago, who is working on the ExoMars rover at the European Space Agency. He and his team have been working on this rover for more than 20 years, and they were only a few months away from its launch. But on this day, the European Space Agency ended all its ties with Russia, and all of this happened. This happened because of the war between Russia and Ukraine. The rover was supposed to be launched from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan, which is controlled by Russia. Vago said that when the order came from above, everyone was saddened. This storm of geopolitics has started affecting humanity's missions as well. This is truly a sad thing. Balia Grid Rosalind Franklin rover, that is, the ExoMars rover, was approved in 2005. After that, work on this mission did start, but there were always problems, sometimes budget issues, sometimes the partners had to be changed, technical issues, and then the COVID-19 pandemic had already delayed this mission a lot. And now this war. Vago further said that I have dedicated my life, my career, just to get this thing up there. But gradually things kept getting complicated, and now because of this war, ESA has ended all its connections with Russia. And this has not only delayed the mission, but now the mission won't even be able to launch. But at the same time, there are many things that have become even more complicated. Because in this mission, a very important part made by Russia, a lander was being used. There were radioisotopic heating units and several other Russian instruments that this mission was carrying. And to replace them, ESA now needs funding. For this, they considered several options about what else could be done. And literally, they even had a plan to keep this rover in a museum. But this mission got a new lease on life when, in November, the European Research Minister granted 360 million euros for this mission. With this, the Russian components will be replaced. Currently, work is ongoing on this mission, and it is estimated that the mission will finally be launched in 2028. ExoMars will be the most advanced mission ever sent to Mars, equipped with state-of-the-art advanced instruments. But one instrument among all of these is quite special, which will have a huge scientific impact on our current understanding of Mars. It will analyze any carbon-containing material present on Mars and beneath its surface and search within it. It will look for certain patterns that could give us evidence of ancient life that once existed on Mars. This is the next generation Mars spectrometer of this rover, the most important scientific instrument of the rover, which will finally give us the answers about the most heated arguments and burning questions of this red planet. Was there ever life on Mars? We can solve the mystery of life on Mars in many ways. The easiest way is to search for fossils of microbes in the soil of Mars, but finding fossils is perhaps the most difficult task on Mars. But scientists have recently found that non-living chemistry can also create such fossils, which will look to us like a lifelike structure. But the mass spectrometer installed in this rover, it will tell scientists about certain molecular patterns and search for them which cannot be formed without life. In this way, this rover will not search for any specific molecules. Rather, it will search for patterns that are not possible without life. This way, we won't just look at the aspect of life that we already know. Rather, we will also look at those aspects of life that we don't know or haven't been able to know yet. At NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center, planetary scientist William Brinkerhoff showed the prototype of the probe's Mars spectrometer and said that it can also be called Mars Organic Molecule Analyzer or MOMA. Roughly, its size is about that of a suitcase, but it's a complex instrument made up of tangled wires and metal parts. Truly, building it is a lot of hard work. This prototype will be used here on Earth in Mars-like conditions using Mars-like soil. When the real MOMA is on Mars around 2030, Brinkerhoff and his team will use this prototype. This prototype will be used to test some experimental protocols and troubleshoot issues that may arise during the mission. The latest mass spectrometer installed in the rover has a journey that goes back about 50 years. In 1976, the first Mars mission to land on the Martian surface and test its soil was the Viking lander mission. This instrument was also used in the Phoenix lander in 2008. In 2012, the Curiosity rover and later Mars orbiters from India, China, and the USA also used it. As far as the mass spectrometer is concerned, it is a and drug makers use it to determine the chemical structure of new medications, and similarly, many such mass spectrometers exist. But how it works is quite simple. First of all, it ionized gas molecules can be easily moved by electric and magnetic fields. Now, this instrument measures the molecular weight of those ions, which helps to determine the number of atoms and the type of atoms in those molecules. And in the last step, this instrument determines the relative abundance of all those molecules according to their weight to find out which molecule is present in what quantity. ExoMars rover is about to land at a site on Mars with this instrument where around 4 billion years ago there used to be water everywhere, which is considered a very crucial ingredient for ancient life. Oxyaplanum is an area of Mars where, despite the harsh radiation, oxidation, and erosion of Mars, we can still find preserved biosignatures. The rover's cameras and other instruments will help us collect samples and understand the surrounding environment there. The drill attached to the rover will go about 2 meters below the surface of Mars to collect samples from ancient Mars. Scientists believe that 2 meters is enough for ancient Mars samples. Cosmic radiation doesn't reach that deep there, which breaks down the molecules on Mars. The Mars Organic Molecule Analyzer, or MOMA, will help scientists search for those signs of life on Mars that could only be created by living organisms, which cannot be made by any other non-living chemistry like lipids, some compounds that make up the cell membrane, and in living things, there is a predominance of even numbers of carbon atoms, whereas if we talk about non-living chemistry, we see a mixture of both even and odd numbers of carbon atoms. Apart from this, the presence of lipids is also considered strong evidence of life there. Similarly, if we talk about amino acids, which are the building blocks of proteins, they can also be created by both biological and non-biological chemistry. There are two types of amino acids, left-handed and right-handed amino acids. Both of these are mirror images of each other, but on Earth, the amino acids produced by life are mostly left-handed amino acids. On the other hand, non-living chemistry produces both types of amino acids. This means that if we find a higher amount of one type of amino acid, it could be a potential sign of life. Before this, all the missions we sent to Mars that included a mass spectrometer had some problems. Because of this, they were not capable of detecting signatures of life on Mars. When scientists found out about this, they were very disappointed, but it was time to learn from those serious mistakes, and by learning from those mistakes, the Mars Organic Molecule Analyzer for the ExoMars rover was developed so that those problems wouldn't arise in this mission, and there was one major problem. There is a compound found on Mars that destroys organic molecules, and that compound is called perchlorate. This compound can also be found in extreme environments on our Earth, such as the Atacama Desert. In the high temperatures there, it keeps degrading organic molecules. It even erases almost all traces of life from those places. In 2008, the Phoenix lander that landed on Mars discovered perchlorate ions in the Martian soil. Apart from this, two other missions, Viking lander and Curiosity rover, also detected chlorinated hydrocarbons. It is possible that they were byproducts of perchlorate. They might have formed when the heat from the oven in their mass spectrometer reacted with the Martian soil, which means that the oven in the spectrometer cannot work, because its heat activates perchlorate and destroys all evidence of life. And maybe that's the reason why we haven't been able to find life on Mars until now. But this time, that won't happen. The scientists have cleverly arranged for MoMA to deal with this perchlorate. Actually, this time, an ultraviolet laser has also been installed along with the oven in the mass spectrometer of the ExoMars rover. That laser will vaporize the entire sample in just a moment, and all of this will happen in just one pulse of light. It will take only 2 nanoseconds in total, and this time is much less than the time it takes for the perchlorate reaction to start. The simple thing here is that perchlorate won't even be able to start its reaction. It will be vaporized along with the entire sample before that happens. There are many other advantages of having a laser here as well. When the laser vaporizes the sample molecules and charges them to become ions, it doesn't interfere much with the structure and chemical bonds of the molecules. On the other hand, in the mass spectrometers of the Viking and Curiosity rover, the process of generating ions was done through electron collision. Because of this, the chemical bonds of the sample molecules would break most of the time, but in the case of the laser, this fragmentation is much less. Along with this, MoMA can choose any one of those intact ions and break it in an isolated environment, something that neither Viking nor Curiosity can do. Then by studying that ion, it can be determined what the original structure of that molecule was and what exactly that molecule was. Was it ever a part of a living thing, or did it come into existence from non-living chemistry? We will have the answers to all these questions. This will be the first time that such laser technology will work on Mars. In all the tests conducted on Earth so far, it has worked correctly. With the tests done using its prototype, we were able to find organic molecules even in places where the amount of perchlorate was much higher than what was detected on Mars by the Phoenix lander. In samples collected from Mars-like places in Yellowstone National Park, it detected lipids, and besides that, it was also successful in finding some other complex molecules, which earlier spectrometers could not detect. Like its predecessors, MoMA also has high-temperature ovens along with a laser. Scientists will still use ovens instead of lasers to vaporize some samples. For example, if the laser detects that the sample contains amino acids, the oven option can provide us with more information than the laser. Besides this, in oven mode, MoMA can use chemical reagents to stabilize molecules, and this method has never been used on Mars before. However, the results from the MoMA instrument will not be the final step in our search for life on Mars. The results that seem spooky or strange to us will be confirmed through repeated experiments and by using the rover's other instruments, and we will get the final confirmation from those samples that will someday be brought back to Earth from Mars. Vigo says that we will have to do confirmatory work, otherwise no one will believe us. Now, we just have to wait for the ExoMars rover's liftoff. And then we will find out whether Mars was ever colonized before, or if we humans will be the first living beings to set foot on Mars. For decades, most of the missions we sent to Mars failed in strange and mysterious ways. It seemed as if there was someone who didn't want us humans to reach Mars. There were technical glitches that made no sense. These incidents left scientists astonished, from technical glitches to entire spacecraft mysteriously disappearing in space without a trace. Many people couldn't help wondering if Mars is cursed. Is Mars cursed? Welcome to the Curse of Mars series, where we will uncover the secrets behind those mysterious incidents that led to the failure of Mars exploration. In this series, we will introduce you to those bizarre coincidences, unexplained failures, and strange anomalies. Their shadow has been cast over our Mars missions right from the very beginning, but to understand the Curse of Mars, we need to go back to the start, when humans tried to reach Mars for the very first time. The Soviet Union's Marsnik missions in 1960 aimed to send a spacecraft to Mars and set a world record for interplanetary travel. Their ambitions were sky high, and with the cutting-edge technology of that time, the Soviet Union was ready to go to Mars. But what happened next completely shocked the scientists. And the rest of the world was forced to wonder if reaching Mars was really beyond our capability. Marsnik 1 and Marsnik 2, both of these launches were carried out with high hopes, but both ended catastrophically. These missions failed immediately due to very strange reasons. Were these failures just technical failures, or was there something even more mysterious? The exploration of Mars began with failure, but we didn't know that these failures had only just begun. Were these the moments where the curse of Mars began with the Marsnik missions? It was the year 1960 when the Cold War between America and the Soviet Union was intensifying. Both these countries had become part of the unseen battle of the space race to show their power to the world. The Soviet Union was already ahead in this race. They had launched the world's first artificial satellite, Sputnik 1, into space. Apart from this, by sending the first human, Yuri Gagarin, into orbit, the Soviet Union had already shown its technological advancement to the world. But to stay ahead of America, now the Soviet Union had to do something even bigger. Because the Soviet Union had already learned about America's plans to go to the moon. So they wanted to stay ahead of America in this space race at any cost, and that's why they set their next target. Mars was a mission whose goal was not just to reach the planet, but for the Soviet Union, it was also a way to achieve interplanetary travel before anyone else. The name of this project was Marsnik 1, and its first spacecraft was also known as Korabel 4. October 10, 1960 was about to become a historic day, and the moments of this mission's launch were about to bear witness to the Soviet Union's dominance in space. This spacecraft was about to be the first one launched with the intention of going to Mars, and the country had very high hopes for this Mars mission. This was a sophisticated piece of Soviet technology which was supposed to fly by Mars and send pictures of that red planet back to Earth. But the reality was completely different from this beautiful dream. Just a few minutes after launch, a major malfunction occurred in the spacecraft. The rocket's upper stage fails to ignite, causing the entire rocket to fall back to Earth. Marsnik 1 was a total failure for the Soviet Union, as it couldn't even cross Earth's atmosphere. The spacecraft that was built to showcase this country's greatness in space was now nothing more than scattered debris in the ocean. This failure did disappoint the Soviets, but it didn't break their spirit. Their determination was still strong. Just 4 days after the incident, on October 14, 1960, they launched the second spacecraft of this project, Marsnik 2. This time, the engineers made several adjustments to the spacecraft, learning from their previous mistakes. They were completely confident about this mission, believing that this time they would be able to successfully begin their journey to Mars. But this time too, success changed its course. Marsnik 2 also turned out to be a catastrophic failure. This time, it failed even earlier than Marsnik 1 reaching Mars was out of the question. Both of these spacecraft couldn't even cross Earth's atmosphere. Both missions were launched just a few days apart and both failed in almost the same way. Is this just a coincidence? Maybe it could be, but not everyone thought so. The Soviets faced back-to-back failures. This seemed like more than just bad luck. It felt very mysterious, as if Mars itself was stopping us. So where exactly was the mistake in both these missions? The official explanation for these incidents was very simple: technical failure, both of them. During the launch of the spacecraft, there was a malfunction in the rocket which prevented those spacecraft from entering Earth's orbit. The engineers said that there was an issue with the upper stage of the rocket, the guidance system was also faulty, and there were miscalculations in fuel consumption. Because of this, both of these missions had failed badly. But beneath the surface, there were some other questions as well, for which no one had any answers. The Soviet Union had already launched several successful missions into space, so it was hard to understand why the Marsnik missions failed so badly. Even the Soviets had launched humans into space by that time, so were these failures just mechanical errors this time, or was something really going wrong with this Mars mission? For some people, these failures came from mistakes we made while exploring space, and we could learn a lot by correcting them. But for some people, two similar missions failing in the same way was no coincidence. It was hard for them to accept this. Some people thought that maybe there are factors beyond our imagination that are stopping us from reaching Mars. Then the theory of cosmic interference started spreading almost everywhere, that there are some areas in space where mysterious activities are more frequent, like gravitational distortions or disturbances in magnetic fields. There were also some people who believed that the position of Mars in space and its unique magnetic properties might have mysteriously caused problems in those launches. At the same time, some people were also linking these failures to aliens, wondering if intelligent alien species were deliberately preventing us from making progress. This theory might sound strange to you, but as the number of failed Mars missions kept increasing, discussions about the curse of Mars started gaining momentum among people. When missions start failing that were never expected to fail, it's only natural for questions to arise. Was there something beyond technology in these missions? Something that was beyond our understanding, but was stopping us from reaching Mars? As more missions to Mars kept failing, the idea of a Mars curse started taking root not just in people's minds, but even among some scientists. The psychological impact of these failures was also deep. With every failure, the idea of Mars being unreachable became even stronger. It wasn't just the Soviet Union's Marsnik missions that failed on their way to Mars. America also experienced something similar with its early missions sent to Mars. In 1962, NASA launched the Mariner 1 mission, which was supposed to fly by Venus first and then head towards Mars. But just like the Soviet missions, this spacecraft was also lost just a few minutes after launch. The reason for this failure was said to be a guidance system failure. This incident, along with the Marsnik disaster, further fueled speculations that Mars is beyond our reach. Mars mission failures kept increasing, and in 1964, NASA's Mariner 3 also failed to reach Mars. Due to a mechanical failure, it kept drifting in space. These incidents didn't seem isolated, rather, people were seeing a pattern in them. A pattern that indicated there was someone who wasn't letting us reach Mars, someone who was stopping us from exploring Mars. This idea was starting to find its place in popular culture. Was there really something that was stopping us from reaching Mars? Or were we just underestimating the challenges of interplanetary travel? In conclusion, the Marsnik mission was just the beginning, the start of a troubled cosmic relationship that was going to continue like this in the future. Were these initial failures reflecting the increasing challenges in space exploration, or was something much more mysterious going on? Is Mars itself rejecting us? Which we still haven't been able to explain to this day. It was the year 1962. The Soviet Union's first attempts to go to Mars had failed badly. Because of the Marsnik project, the dream of reaching Mars remained just a dream. But the Soviet Union was not ready to give up. Just a few years later, they were ready again with their next big hope, Mars 1. The Mars 1 mission was launched with the hope that this spacecraft would capture and send humanity the first close-up images of that mysterious red planet. That would have been a giant leap in the history of space exploration. Everything was going perfectly. Hopes were sky high. And then suddenly, a terrifying silence falls. Halfway through its journey, Mars 1 disappeared. No warning, no distress signal. The scientists on Earth received nothing, just nothing. One moment the spacecraft was in contact with Earth, there was no sign of anything wrong. The spacecraft's health was perfectly fine. It was a very ordinary piece of equipment, which perhaps did not match the modern equipment installed on that spacecraft at the time, or maybe some mysterious force was behind its disappearance. Some people believe that Mars 1 fell victim to such mysterious forces, which perhaps did not want us to reach Mars. In this episode of the Curse of Mars series, we will delve deep into the mysterious disappearance of Mars 1 in space. We will also analyze the official explanation of technical failure and find out whether this failure was not supernatural but rather the result of human error or one of our own mistakes. And according to some theories, we will also explore the angle that claims there is a deep and mysterious force behind this failure. Did something really strange happen with Mars 1? Launch and journey of Mars 1. On November 1st, 1962, Mars 1 was launched. It became the first successful interplanetary mission. In the beginning, everything was going very well. The launch was absolutely smooth. The initial telemetry reports showed that all the systems of the spacecraft were working perfectly. All indications were that this mission would turn into a huge success. For several weeks, everything went according to plan. All the adjustments had been made. Besides that, the entire mission was heading towards success. But then, on March 21, 1963, something happened that no one had ever imagined. The communication from Mars 1 suddenly started to weaken. At first, the signals were getting weaker, but then they even started cutting out intermittently. Mission Control sprang into action. They tried to re-establish a strong connection, but a few hours had already passed. The struggle to save the spacecraft finally came to an end. Mission Control had completely lost contact with Mars 1. It had gone silent. It was lost somewhere in the vast expanse of this universe. For many people who had been working on this mission for years, it was a huge shock. After the initial failures of the Marsnik mission, Mars 1 was like a new hope for all of them. This spacecraft was heading towards its destination. And humanity was about to witness a new milestone. But then, how did success slip away from the Soviet Union? What was the reason behind the sudden disappearance of Mars 1, especially when it was so close to its target? The official explanation. The official report from the Soviet Space Agency gave a straightforward explanation. According to their analysis, the failure of Mars 1 happened due to a malfunction in the communication system, and that malfunction either occurred in the antenna or in the transmitter component. One was for short-range communication and the other for long-range. As this spacecraft was moving farther away from Earth, to maintain communication further, it had to switch to the long-range system. But scientists believed that perhaps these were the moments when this switch might have failed. Because of this, the Soviet Union was not able to succeed in this mission either. According to the official explanation, without the ability to transmit signals as it moved away from Earth, Mars 1 was essentially lost in space. The Soviets also suggested the possibility that a micrometeoroid might have hit the spacecraft, which could have caused the entire system to fail. This explanation was quite easy to understand. After all, the conditions in space are such that they spare no one. The technology of the 1960s, which was considered modern and cutting edge at the time, was not as robust and fail-proof as today's technology. Back in those days, equipment failure was a common thing, and then space missions were treated like a gamble, or you could say like a game of chance. If it succeeded, that was great, and if it failed, they would just consider it a lost bet and start preparing for the next mission. No mission failure was studied in depth. Despite technical reasoning, questions still remained. Why did the malfunction happen exactly at that time when everything had been running smoothly for the past few months? Why wasn't there any indication from anywhere? For many people, this couldn't satisfy their curiosity. They say that this official explanation is not enough to completely solve this mystery. Unexplained theories and speculations. Due to the lack of any conclusive evidence to explain the disappearance of Mars 1, many other theories started to emerge. Some of these theories were quite mysterious and speculative. One theory is about the possibility of cosmic interference. There are many unknown forces in space, such as radiation belts, gravitational anomalies, and magnetic disturbances. Some theorists believe that Mars 1 might have faced such interference while passing through such a region. Because of this, its communication system might have started malfunctioning, and it's also possible that a massive burst of solar radiation coming from our sun destroyed the entire spacecraft, causing us to lose contact with it. Or maybe it passed through some gravitational field which changed its direction and forced it to wander alone in this unexplored space. Apart from this, there are some other strange theories as well, like the possibility of extraterrestrial interference. Did Mars 1 encounter some force in space that is beyond our understanding? However, this idea is far from reality, but it reflects the imaginations of those people who believe that the red planet Mars, because of its unique and mysterious features, may even be under the surveillance of some super intelligent species. Did Mars once see something that it wasn't supposed to see, and that's why those powers deliberately made it disappear? These theories are completely speculative, but the sudden disappearance of Mars 1 in space forces us to look at the incident from a different perspective. Because there have been many technical failures in space missions before, but there were very few missions like this that suddenly disappeared in space without any evidence, just like Mars 1. Even today, Mars 1 is one of the biggest unsolved mysteries from the early days of Mars exploration. Was it just an unfortunate technical failure? Or was there an even more mysterious reason behind it? Did the curse of Mars once again stop us from reaching Mars? The probe's sudden and mysterious disappearance after its final transmission, this is a mystery that remains unsolved to this day. In the grand history of Mars missions, Mars 1 was one of those many missions that ended in a very strange and mysterious way. Some couldn't even reach Mars, and even if they did, they couldn't succeed in their mission. Mars 1 was completely different. Everything was fine for more than half the distance, but later, when silence fell, neither its debris was found nor any explanation for its disappearance. Often the questions for which we don't have answers trouble us the most. What are your thoughts about this mission? Was the curse of Mars really stopping us from reaching Mars? Be sure to share your opinion with us in the comment section below. To watch the other episodes of this series, be sure to check out our The Curse of Mars playlist. If you liked the video, be sure to like it and share it with your friends. For more videos like this, subscribe to the channel and turn on the bell notification. Friends, we'll see you again soon with another informative video like this. Until then, stay curious, be happy, and goodbye.